Howdy, and welcome back to Andy's Corner. Thanks for joining me for Border Files episode number 3. I have a feeling we're about to make some interesting discoveries out in the borderlands of South Texas that will most likely pique Border Patrol Agent Matt Rockworth's interest. Now, I'm running about 2 weeks behind on getting this one out. Been working on some ideas and research around this thing, where this thing is headed. And I believe it's about to take a rather exciting turn. We'll see. It's a journey we're taking together. But first, find you a nice, comfortable spot to relax and enjoy what Matt is about to get into. And try not to slip off the edge of your seat when things get a little wild. And remember, this is a work of fiction, one big figment of my imagination. No names mentioned here in any way refers to any real living persons. There's no AI used here. It's all made from scratch, like Mama's big old cat head biscuits. All rights reserved to Andy's Corner Productions. Now, Matt was sitting at the computer completing a mandatory monthly training video at the Harlingen, Texas Border Patrol station when he heard the door open and heavy boots on the tile floor as someone stepped inside. He pushed his chair back from the tight little computer desk. He stood and turned to see a tall, heavy-set man who looked to be in his mid-60s. He wore a white Stetson hat, a blue plaid Wrangler snap-up shirt, khaki-colored jeans, which ended at a pair of brown leather Justin boots. Matt didn't know the man, but with a cordial smile, he stuck his hand out with an introduction of himself and his official border agent position. And the man nodded and took Matt's hand in a firm grasp. Now, with a deep voice full of Texas drawl, he said, "Howdy, son. I'm Ron Stewart, owner of the R-Bar S Ranch out on the edge of the Cerritos management area." The man paused a few seconds, fiddling with his belt buckle. And he hooked his thumbs in his pockets and continued. He said, I just wondered if y'all have had any reports of strange activity or sounds from that area out there lately. Well, Matt raised his eyebrows and narrowed his lips. He spoke slowly. He said, "Sir, we have no official reports of anything lately. But what sort of things might you be referring to?" Well, Ron kind of lowered his head for a second and bit his bottom lip one time, and he looked like he was a little hesitant to speak. And he looked Matt dead in the eyes and said in a low voice, "Matt, there's something really strange going on out there lately. Why, just yesterday evening, I was out riding the old road between my spread and the management area, and They're looking for a few stray sheep. I noticed were not in the flock when I checked on them around 7:30, when they normally gather up in that southwest corner for a little evening grazing before settling in for the night. As I rode along in my side-by-side, looking around and listening for any sign of the critters, I heard the most god-awful howling sound I've ever had to come inside my ears. But I mean, this was downright hair-raising. He looked around as if to see if anyone else was close by before continuing. Man, I've seen and heard some stuff in my time, but this was different from any of it. Weren't no coyote or anything else I can think of from my past experiences. But it just cut loose with that weird howl 3 times in a row, and I heard what sounded like a herd of stampeding steers running through the bush just a few yards off to the south of the road. Couldn't see what it was, but by golly, it sure made a ruckus out there. He shook his head from side to side a couple times. He said, "My friend, I pointed that buggy toward the house and went as fast as that thing would roll until I got home." His eyes widened a bit as he spoke. "I just figured I would check with y'all and let you know, as I know y'all are always patrolling out there. Just be on the lookout for whatever it is out there, for I don't know what, but just be prepared for something big." He lifted his hand in a quick waving gesture. I gotta get back to the house and fix up a fence a little better. Somehow it got pushed down and a couple of posts were laid over like a bulldozer had run right over it. And I still ain't seen those missing sheep. By my count, 5 of them just flat out disappeared. He shook his head again and turned toward the door. "Wow," Matt said. "Thanks for coming by, Mr. Stewart. We'll definitely be on the lookout for this thing, whatever it is." Ron nodded in his acknowledgement and walked out. Well, Matt stood still, stunned for a minute. Looking at the time on his phone, he made his way to his truck. His assignment for the day was simply to patrol his regular area along the management area road on general border watch duty. So he headed his truck in that direction and got to it. And as he turned off the main road, which was Highway 4, he eased onto the old narrow management road with every sense on high alert, thinking over what old Billy had told him about what he had seen 2 days ago when Matt had stumbled across the hole with the steps going down into it. And mulling over what Ron Stewart had just said also, cracked his windows several inches on both sides so he could hear outside the truck as he rolled along, and made his way to the end of the old dirt road. He backed into a little side trail and shut off the engine. They checked his agency-issued 9mm Glock Gen 5 sidearm and his own backup concealed carry Glock 43 9mm. Then he looked over at the Mossberg pump-action 12-gauge riot gun and the agency-issued AR-15, both on the rack attached to the cage partition at his back. Satisfied that they were all in good working order, he sat for a while just thinking and listening, becoming aware of his surroundings and the normal smells and sounds of the area. Well, after about 30 minutes of this, he heard the sound of a vehicle coming down the old road from the direction of Highway 4. And he watched as a forest ranger pickup truck came around the corner and pulled to a stop in the road right in front of him. And two rangers climbed out and made their way over to his open window. Now, Matt recognized them as Scott Richards and Ben Snyder, a couple of regulars for this sector of the Los Palomas Wildlife Management Area. "Howdy, Matt," Ben said. "Hey, fella, what's cooking?" Scott chimed in. "Not much at the moment," Matt replied. "Just general patrols, you know." He shrugged. "What are you fellas up to?" Well, Ben leaned into Matt's window. "Matt, we've been getting some reports from some of the locals who live out here close to the management area. Several boaters, RV campers, fishermen who have passed through close to the area." He shifted his weight from his right foot to the left. "Some strange sounds and activity out here." Matt raised his eyebrows. He asked, "Howling sounds and such?" Well, Ben and Scott looked at each other quickly. "Have you heard it too?" asked Scott. Well, Matt shook his head. "I haven't myself." Then he told them about Mr. Stewart coming by the station earlier. "So what do you fellas think is going on out here?" he asked. Ben lifted the hat off his head and readjusted it. "Well, not sure yet. Maybe a pack of coyotes," he shrugged. "I've heard of what they call ghost wolves out here in the past. It's occasional coyotes with a touch of the old red or gray wolf DNA. Some of them get a little bigger than the average coyote and sound more like a wolf." He took a pull from a bottle of water he had carried in a side pocket of his cargo pants. "I don't know, but we're going to scout around a bit, see if we can find any sign of something out of the ordinary." Well, Matt nodded. "Well, you guys be careful out here." The two rangers walked back around to their truck, rode on down to another little pull-out area at the very end of the road, got out, eased off into the brush. Well, Matt sat and listened for a little longer and had a thought. He let his window up, pulled his truck back out on the road, and drove back about halfway to Highway 4, to the spot where he had stopped 2 days earlier when he had answered the call of nature. Well, he said to himself, time to put up or shut up. He got out of the truck and very carefully and on full alert went into the bush country. He found the small trail he had followed before and cautiously went in deeper until he came up to the mysterious hole that had haunted his sleep for the past 2 nights. He carefully looked around. He drew his Glock 9mm, which was equipped with a small light, and still watching his surroundings closely, he began easing down the steps into the hole. As he climbed down slowly, he called out, "Hello in the hole. This is Border Patrol Agent Matt Rockworth. If anyone is down there, be advised, I'm coming in. I mean you no harm." Well, he heard no reply, no sound, so he eased on down. Upon reaching the bottom, Matt quickly pulled out his larger flashlight and shined it around to discover a vast cave-like area. And in the center, he spotted a metal file cabinet. And its surface was gleaming under the beam of his flashlight. And beside it, a small desk with a wooden kitchen table-style chair in front of it. Carefully, he looks around a space which is about the size of an average house. And he sees an old cot with a sleeping bag and a pillow on it, sitting a few feet away from the dirt side to the left. Now, to the right was a small table with an old coffee pot, a crock pot, an electric skillet, and a small refrigerator sitting on it. Curious, Matt walked over to have a look. He saw that the electrical cords for these small appliances were running behind and under the table, which was a few inches away from the dirt side. So he knelt down and shined his light under the table, and he saw a small black box mounted to the underside near the back edge of the table. So crawling in a little closer for a better look, he saw the electrical cords were plugged into that small black box. Now, there were no wires or anything leading to or from that little black box. So Matt shook his head, crawled back out from under the table, and stood up. Shining his light around to the back of the room, he saw what appeared to be a bookshelf. It was about 4 feet wide, maybe 6 feet tall. Walking over to it, he saw it had some food items on 2 shelves, several outfits of clothing folded and rolled up and stacked in a neat row against one shelf, across one shelf. And an assortment of 12 gauge, 40 caliber, and .357 Magnum ammo, taking up the space of one whole shelf. Wow, he said to himself. Someone came prepared for trouble. He turned around and stepped over to the front of the old file cabinet, slowly eased the top drawer open a few inches, watching for spiders and such. So then he eased it up, not seeing anything dangerous. He eased it on up a little more. Inside was a long row of thick file folders. As he carefully pulled out the first file, he noticed the date on the label, April 5th, 1980. He carefully opened the folder, saw several pages of information inside. So as he glanced over the top page, he realized it was the description of a law enforcement case, like a case file. At the top of the page was the name and signature of Special Agent Colin A. Ward of the FBI. Matt's eyes widened a bit as he said to himself, "What in the world have I stumbled onto?" Well, the file numbered number 1 contained the description of a missing girl, age 11, named Andrea McIntosh. The first page details included the girl's disappearance from a spring break vacation trip to the border town of Boca del Rio Bravo, which was only a few miles away from where Matt stood. Well, he turned the page, as it was a binder-style folder, to the second page in the folder and realized it seemed to be in story form instead of the typical notes of an investigator working a case. Well, he pulled out his phone to check the time, and seeing it was close to 4 o'clock in the afternoon, he closed the folder, stuck it in his waistband against his back. He climbed out of the hole and made the walk back to his truck. And this is where we will end this episode. We will pick it up again next week and see what kind of a fix Matt gets himself into then. Seems he has a mystery to solve. But thanks again for joining me in Andy's Corner. If you like the story, yell it in the thumbs up or the like buttons here. It helps my little channel's feelings and the YouTube algorithm as more folks will see it. So if you don't like it, then beat the thumbs down button up. Just knock it in the head, whatever you feel like. It's your choice. Leave a comment if you want, telling me something useful, or tell me which bluff to jump off of. And hopefully one with water down below. But until next time, toodaloo.